The great hall of Veldara Prime stretched for nearly a mile in every direction. Massive pillars of crystal held up a ceiling that showed the stars themselves, a living window into the void beyond. Representatives from 100 different species filled the chamber, their voices creating a constant hum of translation devices and whispered conversations. Daniel Porter stood near the human section, his military uniform crisp and his expression calm. He had served in 3 different conflicts before being assigned to the Galactic Council as a military attaché. He had seen war. He had seen peace. And right now, watching the newcomers enter the chamber, he had a feeling he was about to see something very foolish. The Drexari walked with the confidence of conquerors. Their scaled bodies were covered in ceremonial armor, and their eyes glowed with a soft red light that spoke of genetic modification for combat. They had emerged from their corner of the galaxy only 50 years ago, and in that time they had conquered 3 star systems and enslaved 2 species. Now they wanted recognition from the Council. Ambassador Lisa Murray touched Daniel's arm gently. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had been negotiating with alien species for 30 years, and she knew trouble when she saw it. The Drexari Warlord, she whispered. Zorath. He's been demanding tribute from colonies along their expansion route. Daniel nodded slowly. Including ours. The Drexari delegation reached the center of the chamber, and Warlord Zorath stepped forward. He was larger than the others, his scales darker and his armor more elaborate. When he spoke, his voice carried across the entire hall. The Drexari Dominion greets the Galactic Council. We come as equals, not as servants. We have proven our strength through conquest, and we demand our rightful place among the powers of this galaxy. The council members shifted uncomfortably. Conquest was not forbidden by galactic law, but it was not celebrated either. Most species had learned long ago that expansion through force was expensive and temporary. Councillor Vethrak of the Kalori slowly rose from his seat. He was ancient, his pale skin almost transparent, and his eyes holding the wisdom of 8 centuries. The Kalori had been among the first species to achieve faster-than-light travel, and their words carried weight. The Council acknowledges the Drexari Dominion, Vethrak said carefully. We note your military achievements. However, we must address certain concerns regarding your expansion route. Zorath's eyes narrowed. Speak. Your projected path crosses through territory claimed by the Terran Alliance. Human colony worlds. We advise caution in this matter. A rumble of laughter came from the Drexari delegation. Zorath turned to look at the human section, his gaze finding Daniel and Lisa with obvious amusement. Humans, he said, as if the word itself was a joke. We have studied these creatures. They come from a death world, yes. Harsh gravity, extreme weather, dangerous predators. But they have grown soft. They build farms and schools. They raise children and plant gardens. They have forgotten what it means to fight. Daniel felt Lisa's hand tighten on his arm, a silent warning to stay calm. Councillor Vethrak did not sit down. Instead, he moved closer to the Drexari Warlord, his ancient body slow but deliberate. Warlord Zorath, I request a private audience. There is information you should have before making any decisions regarding human territory. Zorath considered this for a moment, then nodded. The two moved to a side chamber, while the rest of the council waited inside the small room. Vethrak activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air between them. Ships burning. Planets scarred by orbital bombardment. And then, finally, a species that no longer existed. The Vorn Collective, Vethrak said quietly. 400 years ago, they were the most feared military power in this region of space. They controlled 60 star systems. They had never lost a war. Zorath studied the images with interest. What happened to them? They attacked a human colony, a small world called Harvest, population of 12,000 civilians. The Vorn believed it would be an easy conquest. They were wrong. The images shifted. Human ships, more than anyone had known existed, pouring out of warp gates. Ground forces landing on Vorn worlds. The systematic dismantling of an empire that had stood for 1,000 years. The humans did not stop at defending Harvest. Vethrak continued. They tracked down every Vorn commander involved in the attack. Every soldier who had fired on civilians. Every official who had given orders. It took them 11 years. They crossed 300 light years. And when they were finished, the Vorn Collective existed only in history files. Zorath was silent for a long moment. Then he laughed. An impressive story. But the Vorn were clearly weak. The Drexari are not. You do not understand, Vethrak said, his voice heavy with warning. The humans did not destroy the Vorn because they were strong. They destroyed them because the Vorn killed human children. Families, innocents. Humans have a unique response to such things. They do not forgive. They do not forget. And they do not stop. Zorath turned away from the display. I have heard enough, old one. The Drexari do not fear stories told by ancient creatures hiding behind council chambers. We take what we want. And we want the human colonies. He walked back into the main hall, leaving Vethrak standing alone with the ghosts of the Vorn. When the session resumed, Daniel Porter stepped forward. His voice was calm and steady, carrying the weight of absolute certainty. Warlord Zorath, on behalf of the Terran Alliance, I offer you a single chance. Turn your expansion away from human space. We have no desire for war with the Drexari Dominion. But if you attack our people, you will learn why the Council Elder tried to warn you. Zorath smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Human, your threats are empty. Your words are wind. We will take your colonies, and we will take your resources. And we will show this council that humanity is no longer worthy of fear. He activated his communication device and broadcast his response across every channel in the region. To all ships of the Drexari Dominion, the human territories are now claimed. Resistance will be crushed. Glory to the Dominion. Ambassador Murray stood slowly. Her face was pale, but her voice was steady. Then, we have nothing more to discuss. You have made your choice, Warlord. Remember this moment. Remember that you were warned. Remember that you chose this path. Zorath turned and walked out of the chamber, his delegation following. That night, the first Drexari warships jumped toward the human agricultural colony of New Haven. 40,000 civilians lived there. Farmers, teachers, families. Children. The warning had been given. The warning had been ignored. And humanity began to remember what it meant to hunt. New Haven was beautiful in the morning light. Golden fields of wheat stretched toward distant mountains, and the colony's main settlement sat like a jewel in the center of the valley. Children ran through the streets on their way to school, their laughter mixing with the sounds of farmers starting their day. Kevin Brooks stood on his balcony and watched the sunrise. As colonial administrator, he had overseen New Haven's growth from a small outpost to a thriving community of 40,000 people. They had hospitals now, universities, parks where families gathered on weekends. It had taken 20 years, but they had built something worth protecting. His communication device buzzed. The message was short and terrifying. Drexari fleet detected. Arrival in 3 hours. Kevin's heart stopped for just a moment. Then he moved. Sandra Wells was already in her classroom when the emergency alert came through. She had been a teacher on New Haven for 15 years, and she knew every child in the settlement by name. When she heard the warning, she did not panic. She gathered her students and began walking them toward the underground bunkers. Stay together, she said calmly. Hold hands with your partner. We practiced this, remember? Everything is going to be fine. The children trusted her. They always had Dot at the small military garrison outside the settlement. Captain Nathan Cole was preparing his ship for launch. The Resolute was a light cruiser, designed for patrol duty and escort missions. It was not built for full combat against a war fleet, but it was all they had. Sir, we're detecting 47 Drexari warships, his sensor officer reported. Capital class. Heavy weapons. They'll reach orbit in less than 2 hours. Nathan looked at his crew. 23 men and women who had volunteered for what they all knew might be a one-way mission. Get every civilian transport in the air, he ordered. Women and children first. We hold the line as long as we can. The evacuation began. Shuttles lifted off from every landing pad in the colony, carrying families toward the emergency jump gate on the far side of the planet. Underground bunkers filled with people who could not make it to the transports in time. Kevin Brooks stood in the communications center, broadcasting on every channel the Drexari might be monitoring. Drexari Fleet. This is Colonial Administrator Kevin Brooks. New Haven is a civilian settlement. We have no military value. We have no strategic resources. We have only farmers and families. I ask you to reconsider your approach. There is nothing here worth dying for. The response came in the form of weapons fire. The first orbital strike hit the Eastern District. The explosion was visible from space, a ball of fire that consumed 3 city blocks in an instant. Schools, homes, a hospital that had just finished treating its mourning patients. Sandra Wells felt the ground shake as she led her students deeper underground. The bunker doors closed behind them, heavy steel sealing them away from the nightmare above. Everyone count off, she said, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. I need to know everyone is here. Above them, the Resolute rose to meet the Drexari fleet. Captain Cole knew the mathematics of this battle. 47 warships against 1 light cruiser. The outcome was certain, but every minute he fought was another minute for civilians to escape. All weapons free, he ordered. Target their troop transports first. Make them pay for every inch. The Resolute dove into the Drexari formation like a wolf among sheep. Its weapons blazed, striking enemy ships with precise fury. 3 troop transports exploded before the Drexari could react. A 4th was crippled, spinning away into the void. But there were too many. Plasma fire tore through the Resolute's shields. The ship shuddered as armor plating melted away. Warning alarms screamed through every corridor. Hull breach on Deck 4, someone reported. Deck 5. Deck 7. We're losing containment. Nathan Cole watched as another evacuation shuttle cleared the atmosphere, its passengers safe. Then another. Then another. Keep firing, he said quietly. Every second counts. The Drexari warships turned their full attention to the Resolute. The little cruiser lasted another 11 minutes, fighting with everything it had until the reactor finally failed Dot in his last moments. Nathan Cole activated the quantum relay and broadcast a message to Earth. He spoke clearly, without fear, recording the coordinates, the casualty count, and the names of every child who would die in the initial bombardment. Then the Resolute broke apart, and 23 brave souls joined the silence of space. The bombardment lasted for 3 more hours. The Drexari showed no mercy. They targeted shelters. They targeted hospitals. They targeted schools that had already been emptied. When they finally landed ground troops, there was almost nothing left to conquer. 8,000 people died that day. 2,300 of them were children. Sandra Wells survived, along with the 47 students she had led to safety. They stayed in the bunker for 2 days, listening to the sounds of destruction above. holding each other and praying for rescue. On Earth, the message from Captain Cole arrived during a session of the Terran Alliance Parliament. The chamber fell silent as his final words played across every screen. This is Captain Nathan Cole of the Resolute. New Haven is lost. 8,000 dead. I am transmitting the names now. Remember them. Remember what was done here today. Remember the children. The list of names scrolled past. It took 4 minutes. 4 minutes of silence as humanity. Read the names of farmers and teachers and doctors and children who would never see another sunrise. Ambassador Lisa Murray was in the Galactic Council chamber when she received the news. She stopped mid-sentence, her face going pale. For a long moment, she did not speak. The Drexari representative watched her with amusement. Ambassador, is something wrong? You look unwell. Lisa stood slowly. Her eyes found the Drexari, and something changed in them. Something old. Something dangerous. You were warned, she said quietly. Councillor Vethrak tried to tell your warlord. We offered peace. We asked you to choose another path. The Drexari laughed. And now you will offer surrender, yes? This is what soft species do. They lose a colony, and they beg for mercy. Lisa Murray shook her head slowly. No, we will not surrender. We will not beg. We will not negotiate. She turned to address the entire council, her voice carrying across the great hall. To all species present, I make this announcement on behalf of the Terran Alliance. The Drexari Dominion has committed an act of war against humanity. They have killed our civilians. They have murdered our children. And they have done so after being warned of the consequences. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was ice. We are coming for them. Every ship that fired on New Haven, every commander who gave orders, every officer who chose not to stop it. We will find them. We will chase them across every star, every system, every corner of this galaxy. And we will never stop. The Drexari representative stopped laughing. Councillor Vethrak closed his eyes and bowed his head. And on Earth, the greatest fleet in human history began to assemble. The mobilization began within hours of the message from New Haven. Across Earth and every human colony, reserves were called up, ships were brought out of storage, and factories switched to wartime production. It was the largest military response in human history, and it happened faster than anyone in the galaxy had thought possible. Admiral Rebecca Shaw stood on the bridge of the Titan, flagship of what was now being called the Terran Pursuit Fleet. She was a woman in her 50s, with silver hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. She had hoped to retire next year. She had hoped the days of war were behind her. But then they killed the children of New Haven. Admiral, all fleet elements are reporting ready, her executive officer announced. 347 warships, 92 support vessels. The Hunter Corps is standing by for deployment. Rebecca nodded slowly. 347 warships. The entire active military, plus every ship that could be brought out of reserve. And more were being built every day. She activated the fleet-wide communication system, her voice reaching every ship in the formation. This is Admiral Shaw. In 72 hours, we will begin the pursuit of every Drexari commander involved in the attack on New Haven. Our mission is not conquest. Our mission is not revenge. Our mission is justice. 8,000 people died on that colony. 2,300 of them were children. We are going to find every officer who gave those orders, and we are going to bring them to answer for what they did. She paused, letting her words sink in. They think we are soft. They think we have forgotten how to fight. They are about to learn why the galaxy once feared us. We do not start wars, but we finish them. Move out. The fleet jumped to warp. leaving Earth behind on the Drexari homeworld. Warlord Zorath was beginning to understand his mistake. Reports were flooding in from every corner of their territory. Human ships were appearing everywhere, striking Drexari military installations with surgical precision and then disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. "How many ships do they have?" he demanded, his voice echoing through the war room. His intelligence officer hesitated. "Warlord, our initial estimates were incorrect. We believed the humans had fewer than 50 military vessels. Current projections suggest they have over 500, with more entering service daily." Zorath slammed his fist against the table. "Impossible. No species builds that fast. They were building in secret, Warlord. Hidden shipyards and asteroid fields. Factory stations disguised as mining operations. They have been preparing for war for decades, just waiting for someone to give them a reason. In a hidden intelligence facility on a moon orbiting a gas giant, Lieutenant Amanda Price was coordinating the largest intelligence operation in human history. Banks of computers processed intercepted Drexari communications, while analysts worked around the clock to identify every officer involved in New Haven. We have confirmed identities on 47 of the 52 commanders," she reported to Admiral Shaw via secure channel. "The remaining 5 are using false transponders, but we're tracking their communication patterns. We'll find them. How long? Days, not weeks. They can't hide from us, Admiral. We have assets in every major system they control. Every time they move, we know." Admiral Shaw studied the tactical display showing Drexari space. Red dots marked the locations of their target commanders. Green dots showed the positions of human hunting teams. "What about Zorath?" "He's still on the homeworld. Our sources say the Drexari High Command is considering handing him over to us as a peace offering." "And what did Ambassador Murray say to that?" Amanda checked her notes. She said, and I quote, "We will collect him ourselves, along with every officer who gave orders that day." The Galactic Council watched the unfolding campaign with a mixture of awe and terror. Human ships appeared in systems they should not have been able to reach. Drexari commanders vanished from their posts, captured by special operations teams that moved like ghosts through enemy territory. Counselor Vethrak received daily reports from his own intelligence network. Each day, the list of captured Drexari officers grew longer. "The humans are not attacking civilian populations," he noted to his fellow council members. "They are not destroying infrastructure. They are only taking military targets directly connected to New Haven." "That makes it worse," another counselor whispered. "If they were simply destroying everything, we could call it rage. This is something else. This is patient. This is planned. This is terrifying." Sergeant Chris Turner led one of the Hunter Corps teams operating deep in Drexari space. His unit had already captured 7 commanders, extracting them from heavily guarded military bases with minimal casualties on both sides. Tonight, they were going after Commander Vextel, the officer who had ordered the bombardment of New Haven's Eastern District. The district with the schools. The insertion was smooth. Turner's team cut through the base security like a hot knife through butter. They found Vextel in his private quarters, surrounded by guards who surrendered the moment they saw human weapons pointed at them. "Commander Vextel," Turner said calmly, "you are under arrest for war crimes against the civilian population of New Haven. You will be transported to Earth to stand trial. Do you understand?" Vextel stared at him with wide eyes. "How did you find me?" "I was hidden. I was protected." Turner smiled without warmth. "There is nowhere in this galaxy you can hide from us. You killed our children. Did you think we would forget? Did you think we would stop?" The Drexari commander had no answer. As weeks turned into months, the hunt continued. Human ships appeared in systems beyond Drexari borders, tracking commanders who had fled to neighboring territories. Governments that had offered shelter to the fugitives quickly changed their minds when human warships appeared in their space. Ambassador Murray delivered a simple message to every species in the region. We are not here for war. We are here for justice. Give us the criminals, and we will leave you in peace. Protect them, and you will learn why the Drexari should have listened to the warnings. No one chose to protect them. On the Galactic Council station, Councilor Vethrak watched a news broadcast showing another captured Drexari commander being transferred to human custody. A young council aide approached him nervously. "Counselor, how long will this continue? How long will the humans hunt?" Vethrak turned to look at the young creature with ancient eyes. "I warned Warlord Zorath," he said quietly. "I showed him what happened to the Vorn, but he did not understand. He thought human kindness was weakness. He thought their farms and schools and families meant they had forgotten how to fight." He paused, watching as the broadcast showed Sandra Wells, the teacher from New Haven, giving testimony about the children she had lost. The humans do not seek war. They do not desire conquest. But they remember. They remember every name, every face, every child who died in their arms. And they will never stop hunting until every person responsible has answered for what they did. The aide swallowed hard. "Never?" Vethrak shook his head slowly. "Never. That is what it means to be human. That is why the galaxy should fear them. That is why the galaxy should fear them. Not because of their weapons, not because of their ships, but because they will cross any distance, wait any length of time, and sacrifice anything to protect their own." He turned back to the broadcast. Zorath thought he was hunting prey. He did not realize he had awakened something far more dangerous. On the edge of Drexari space, Warlord Zorath made his decision. He would not wait to be captured. He would not let his own people hand him over for execution. He would run. He took his fastest ship and jumped beyond map space, into the unknown regions where no government had authority and no law held power. He thought he could escape. He was wrong. 6 months had passed since the attack on New Haven. Across the galaxy, the human hunt had become the subject of fear and fascination. News networks broadcast updates daily. Species that had never heard of Earth now spoke of humans in whispered tones. And the numbers told a story that no one could ignore. 40-7 of the 52 commanders involved in New Haven had been captured or killed. Most had surrendered peacefully, choosing trial over death. Some had fought back. They had all been found. Only 5 remained free, and one of them was Warlord Zorath, Lieutenant Amanda. Price studied the intelligence reports in her quarters aboard the Titan. 6 months of tracking, analyzing, and predicting had led them here, to the edge of mapped space. Beyond this point, star charts became unreliable and communication networks disappeared. "He thinks he's clever," she said to herself, highlighting a series of jump coordinates on her display. But patterns don't lie. Zorath had been running for 3 months, jumping from system to system, never staying more than a few days in any location. He had hired mercenaries. He had bribed smugglers. He had formed alliances with pirates who operated in the lawless regions beyond Council. Authority, none of it mattered. Admiral Shaw reviewed Amanda's analysis on the bridge of the Titan. "You're certain he's heading for the void reaches?" Amanda nodded. "The void reaches are beyond anyone's jurisdiction. No council presence, no regular patrols, just pirates and outlaws. It's the only place he might think we can't follow." "He's wrong." "Yes, Admiral. He is." The Terran pursuit fleet jumped into the void reaches 2 days later. It was a dangerous region, filled with unstable warp corridors and hidden asteroid fields. Perfect territory for for those who wanted to disappear. But humans had never been afraid of difficult terrain. Sergeant Chris Turner and his Hunter Corps team were the first to make contact. Their stealth ship detected Drexari engine signatures near an abandoned mining station, and they moved in to investigate. What they found was unexpected. Zorath had gathered a small army around him. Drexari loyalists who had fled with their warlord. Mercenary companies from a dozen different species. Pirate crews who had been promised payment in Drexari military technology. Nearly 200 ships and thousands of armed fighters. "Wow," Turner said, studying the sensor data. "He's been busy." His communications officer looked worried. "Sergeant, should we pull back and wait for the fleet?" Turner considered this. Then he smiled. "No, we're going to do something better. We're going to talk to them." The broadcast went out on every frequency the Pirate Alliance was using. Turner's face appeared on screens throughout the fleet of outlaws. "This is Sergeant Chris Turner of the Terran Hunter Corps. I have a message for everyone except Warlord Zorath. 6 months ago, Zorath ordered the bombardment of a human colony. 8,000 civilians died. 2,300 of them were children." He paused, letting the numbers sink in. "We are not here for you. We do not care about your crimes or your business. We only want Zorath and the commanders who served under him at New Haven. Anyone who hands them over will be allowed to leave freely. Anyone who protects them will be treated as an enemy of humanity." Another pause. "You have all heard what happens to enemies of humanity. You have all seen the news broadcasts. 47 commanders captured in 6 months. Governments that tried to shelter them watching human warships appear in their space. This is your one chance. Make a choice." The Pirate Alliance fell apart within hours. Mercenary companies withdrew, broadcasting apologies and promises of neutrality. Pirate crews abandoned their positions and fled deeper into the void reaches, wanting no part of a war with humanity. Drexari officers who had hoped to rebuild their careers under Zorath's protection surrendered themselves to Turner's team, choosing trial over death. By morning, Zorath's army had shrunk from 200 ships to 12. Amanda Price intercepted the communications between the fleeing pirates and their contacts. The messages were illuminating. "There." Terrified, she reported to Admiral Shaw. "One pirate captain is telling everyone that humans tracked him through 3 different sectors last year for stealing a medical supply ship. He says he's not going to war over a Drexari warlord." Shaw almost smiled. "What about Zorath?" "He's running." His remaining ships jumped toward an uncharted system near the edge of the galaxy. "We're tracking them now." Zorath's bridge was quiet as his fleet made another desperate jump. 12 ships. That was all he had left. The mercenaries had abandoned him. The pirates had fled. His own officers were whispering about surrender. "Warlord," his communications officer said hesitantly, "we are receiving a transmission from the humans. I do not wish to hear their threats." "It is not a threat, Warlord. It is a message from one of our captured commanders." Zorath turned slowly. "Play it." The face of Commander Helvath appeared on the screen. He had been captured 2 months ago, and he looked tired but unharmed. "Zorath, if you are receiving this, I want you to know something. The humans gave me a fair trial. They presented evidence. They allowed me to speak in my own defense. I was found guilty, and I will spend the rest of my life in a human prison. But they did not torture me. They did not execute me. They treated me with more dignity than we showed to people of New Haven." Helvath leaned closer to the camera. "Stop running. Stop hiding. You cannot escape them. No one can. Turn yourself in and face justice. It is the only choice left." The message ended. Zorath stood in silence for a long moment. Then he turned to his navigation officer. "Find me a system they cannot reach. Find me somewhere to hide." I will not surrender to soft creatures who build farms and raise children. But his officers' hands were shaking. Warlord, they tracked us through unmapped space. They followed us through pirate territory. They broke apart our alliance without firing a single shot. There is nowhere they cannot reach. Zorath struck him across the face, sending the officer crashing to the floor. Then we will make our stand. We will show them that the Drexari do not beg for mercy. His remaining ships jumped to a barren system at the galaxy's edge. A dying star, a handful of rocky worlds, and nothing else. This would be where Zorath made his final stand. He did not have to wait long. The Titan dropped out of warp 3 days later, followed by 50 human warships. They did not immediately attack. Instead, they surrounded Zorath's small fleet and waited. Admiral Shaw's voice came through on all channels. Warlord Zorath, this is Admiral Rebecca Shaw of the Terran Pursuit Fleet. You are surrounded. Your allies have abandoned you. Your fleet cannot escape. I am offering you one final opportunity to surrender and face trial for your crimes. Zorath laughed bitterly. And what does your justice look like, human? A quick execution? Torture for information? Neither. You will be tried in a court of law. Evidence will be presented. You will be allowed to speak in your own defense. If found guilty, you will spend the rest of your life in a prison facility. We do not execute war criminals. We make them live with what they did. Silence. You have until tomorrow morning to make your decision, Shaw continued. After that, we are coming to get you regardless of your answer. The night passed slowly on Zorath's flagship. His officers argued about what to do. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted to surrender. Some simply wanted it to be over. In the morning, Admiral Shaw received a response. I am Warlord Zorath of the Drexari Dominion. I do not surrender to prey. Come and take me if you can. Shaw sighed and turned to her tactical officer. Launch the assault. Disable their ships. Minimal casualties on both sides if possible. We're taking them alive. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than an hour. Human ships moved with perfect coordination, targeting engines and weapon systems while leaving life support intact. One by one, Zorath's vessels went dark on the final ship. Sergeant Turner's team cut through the bridge doors and found the Warlord waiting, a weapon in his hand. You came all this way for me, Zorath said quietly. Across half the galaxy, through unmapped space, past every defense I could create. Why? Turner lowered his weapon slightly. Because you killed our children. And we never forget. We never stop. You were warned, Warlord. You should have listened. Zorath dropped his weapon and allowed himself to be taken into custody. The hunt was almost over. The trial of Warlord Zorath and his commanders was broadcast across every inhabited system in the galaxy. More than 400 billion beings watched as humanity presented its case against the Drexari officers who had destroyed New Haven. The courtroom on Earth was simple and dignified. No dramatic lighting or impressive architecture, just a functional space where justice would be served. Zorath sat with his remaining commanders. All 52 of them finally gathered in one place. After 8 months of hunting, Ambassador Lisa Murray opened the proceedings with a statement that would be remembered for centuries. We are not here for revenge. We are not here to demonstrate our power. We are here because 8,000 people, including 2,300 children, were killed without warning and without mercy. We are here because justice must have meaning. We are here because the names of the dead deserve to be spoken. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Every piece of evidence was presented carefully. Communication records showing the orders given. Sensor data documenting the bombardment patterns. Testimony from survivors who had watched their homes burn. And then Sandra, Wells took the stand. The teacher from New Haven had aged years in the months since the attack. Her hair had turned gray, and her hand shook slightly as she held the memorial list. But her voice was strong. "I was responsible for 123 students," she said quietly. "When the warning came, I gathered them and led them to the bunkers. 47 made it. 47 children are alive because we practiced the evacuation drills. But 76 did not make it. 76 children were in other parts of the school when the bombardment began." She looked directly at Zorath. "I knew all of them. I knew their favorite subjects. I knew their dreams. I knew which ones wanted to be farmers like their parents, and which ones wanted to travel to the stars. They were not soldiers. They were not threats. They were children." She unfolded the list and began reading names. It took almost an hour. 76 names, followed by ages and brief descriptions. Favorite colors. Best friends. The small details that made each child a person instead of a statistic. When she finished, the courtroom was silent. Zorath was given the opportunity to speak in his own defense. He stood slowly, his scaled body seeming smaller than it had 8 months ago. "I underestimated humanity," he said finally. "I believed your kindness was weakness. I believed your farms and schools meant you had forgotten strength. I was wrong." He paused, looking at the images of New Haven that still hung on the courtroom displays. "But I ask you this. What makes you different from us? You hunted us across galaxies. You dismantled our alliances. You showed the same relentless determination that we showed in conquest. Are we not the same?" Ambassador Murray rose to respond. "No, we are not the same. You attacked civilians without warning. You targeted schools and hospitals. You killed children for territory. We pursued justice. We captured your officers and brought them to trial. We did not bomb your homeworld. We did not kill your families. We did not show your children the same mercy you showed ours." Her voice hardened. "That is the difference between us. We could have destroyed you. We had the power. We had the reason. But we chose justice over revenge. We chose law over blood. That is what makes us human." The verdict came swiftly. Guilty on all counts. The sentences were life imprisonment without possibility of release. The Drexari commanders would spend the rest of their lives in a facility designed specifically for this purpose, with enough comfort to survive, but nothing more. As Zorath was led away, Council of Vethrek watched from the gallery. The ancient Kalori had made the journey to Earth specifically for this moment. "They could have executed him," a young human journalist said to the counselor. "Most species would have. Why didn't they?" Vethrek considered the question carefully. "Because death would have been an ending. Humans do not want an ending for Zorath. They want him to live, to remember, to spend every remaining day knowing that his actions killed thousands of innocents and that he will never escape the consequences. That is more terrifying than any execution." 1 month later, Ambassador Murray returned to New Haven. The colony was being rebuilt. New buildings rose from the ashes of the old. Farmers were planting crops in fields that had been scarred by orbital fire. Children played in newly constructed parks, their laughter mixing with the sounds of construction. Mari carried a small memorial plaque in her hands. She walked to the center of what had been the main settlement, where a simple garden had been created around a stone monument. The monument listed every name. 8,000 people. 2,300 children. Each one remembered. She placed the plaque at the base of the monument and stepped back. It reads simply, "You were loved. You are remembered. You will never be forgotten." A young Drexari diplomat approached her carefully. His people had sent him as part of the new peace negotiations, and he had asked to visit New Haven as a gesture of respect. "Ambassador," he said quietly, I want you to know that the Drexari people are ashamed of what was done here. Zorath did not represent all of us. Many of us opposed the war from the beginning. Murray studied him for a long moment. I know. The galaxy is not simple, and guilt is not collective. Your people are not our enemies. Zorath and his commanders were. The young diplomat nodded slowly. Is peace possible between us? True peace. There can always be peace, Murray said. Humanity does not seek eternal war. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We want to raise our children, build our homes, live our lives. But the next time someone considers attacking human civilians, I hope they remember what happened when Zorath did not listen to the warning. She gestured to the memorial, to the names carved in stone. We remember. That is our strength and our burden. We remember every name, every face, every child who should have grown up to see the stars. And we will cross any distance, face any danger, to ensure that those who harmed them face justice. The young diplomat bowed his head. I will carry this message to my people. Do that. And perhaps in time, we can build something better together. 20 years later, a Drexari history textbook contained a chapter titled The Human Hunt. It was required. Reading for all military officers in training, the chapter began with the warning that Council of Vethrek had given to Zorath, and ended with a simple conclusion. Humanity is not a species of conquerors. They do not seek empire or dominion. They build farms and schools. They raise families. They create art and music and poetry. But beneath their kindness lies a truth that every species in the galaxy must understand. Harm their people, especially their children, and they will hunt you. It may take months. It may take years. It may take decades. But they will find you. They will catch you. And they will make you answer for what you did. This is not rage. This is not bloodlust. This is something far more terrifying. This is human patience. This is human memory. This is human justice. The warning was given. The warning should never have been ignored. On Earth, Sandra Wells continued teaching for 30 more years. She often told her students about New Haven, about the 76 children who did not survive, and about the importance of remembering those who came before. And every year, on the anniversary of the attack, humans across the galaxy paused for a moment of silence. They remembered the names. They honored the dead. And they renewed their quiet promise to the universe that we protect our own. We remember our lost. And we never, ever stop. The warning stood eternal, written as stars themselves.